We've had a fantastic day's bream fishing today at Staunton Harold. Now, what I thought I'd do is run through the setup I've used, because you know what, this sort of big water to a lot of people can be a little bit daunting, but I think you can attack this sort of place with a really simple setup. So what we'll do is we'll start with the rod. This rod is a free spirit, it's a high S power feeder. Now this is the special. For me, I like the special version, and that is because it's just a little bit softer than the more powerful distance version. For bream fishing, and even for carp fishing, I like to use this rod. It's a fantastic rod for playing fish, but also for casting. With the hollow tips in, I use it at Boddington. I cast it maybe like 90 or 100 meters with ease. But for this situation, I've put one of the new glass tips in. It's brilliant for spotting bites from bream or skimmers. I've used a 1.5 ounce glass tip. The indications that you get, you see every little bite develop, it's fantastic. So that's the rod. On the reel, we've got 010 braid. I think a nice thin braid, it cuts through the water nicely when you're trying to sink it. Obviously it casts really nicely. Now 010 braid, it's probably not strong enough in its own right to cast off, and that's why I'm using a shock leader. You can probably see there, that shock leader knot is ever so tiny. Now I use a 4-turn water knot to attach that shock leader. The shock leader in itself is 12-pound M-Tech line. I use that line in all the lower breaking strains. I'm really confident in it, so I just use the strongest M-Tech that's available, which is 12-pound, and I use that as a shock leader. For shock leaders, you just want something that's not going to let you down. The last thing you want to do is crack off and have all your mates around you laughing their socks off. So length of shock leader. For me, when I'm bream fishing, I don't like something that's overly long. I just want to make sure it's on the reel when I'm casting out. So obviously that's taking the pressure off that cast. And that means I'll have that little knot level with the reel, and then I'll go up the rod, then down the rod, and bring the line level with the reel, and then cut the line. That, in effect, we've got just under 2 rod lengths of shock leader then on the reel, which means that when we're casting out, we've got no problems with crack offs. Now down to the business end. Today I'm using a helicopter rig. For a lot of my international style fishing, we have to use a running rig. The problem with a running rig is sometimes if you've got a nasty wind or if you're casting a very long way, you can get an odd tangle. And I want to be fishing effectively all the time. So a helicopter rig helps cut down tangles massively. Really simple to tie. I've got a float stop on the shock leader. Then I've slid on one of these, I don't know what you'd call them, quick link swivels. They've got a little hook on the end with a little bit of rubber that you slide over, and that runs freely on the line, but it's trapped by 2 float stops at the bottom, obviously that 1 float stop at the top. And then me personally, I like to tie this twizzled loop. That twizzled loop is usually about 4 inches long, and that is what I house my little snap link on. And obviously I can change feeders, put a different bomb on or whatever I want on that end. Now onto that little quick link is my hook length. Today I've fished with about 60 centimeters, so 2 feet, not a really long hook length, but just a nice length, so I get a nice slow fall, but bites are still registering nice and fast. It's 018. Again, slightly thicker line. You don't want many tangles when you're fishing out there. You want to be fishing for as long as possible and as effectively as possible. So that thicker line helps with that. The hook, that's a size 12, and you can see there we've got a little hair rig on with a push stop on the end. Corn or hair-rigged worm has been a fantastic bait today. We've been fishing for big fish. Every bite literally is hooking themselves, and obviously because you've got a load of hook point exposed when you fish a hair rig, bites are pretty unmissable. Now, while we're down here, I think it's important to talk about feeder choice, because obviously with this rig we can put on any different feeders that we want, and we've got a few different feeders on our tray. So what we've got on here is sort of like your standard, I'll put a bigger one on so you can see it better, your standard sort of like bottom weighted cage feeder. These are a handmade feeder. You can see they're bottom weighted, very open mesh. The bait can release from them feeders really quickly. And this is what I like to use when I feel like I need to attract fish into the swim. I'm not getting any indications and I feel like I need to gather some fish from a wide area and attract fish in the swim, because you can see there the water can get to the bait really quick, bait disperses from the feeder quick, There's a lot of cloud in the water, really attractive to the fish. But then, if we want to slow things down a little bit, I think a window feeder is a brilliant way of doing that. Pins fish to the bottom, you can ram your bait in a window feeder, and it just makes sure that all your bait gets to the bottom. That's where you're catching the fish. So it's almost like you attract them with the cage, chuck your window feeder in amongst the fish when you've got a lot of fish there. They've got no choice really, because all your bait's encased in that window. They've got no choice down there other than to pick up your hook bait. And that's been working really well today, if I'm honest. You know, every time it's gone quiet, we've put the cage on, 3 or 4 chucks with the cage, put the window back on, and that's how we've been catching the fish.